it's 3 o'clock, so I think we're going to be good to go. So hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today on our online Connect Talk Crisis Communication with Jeff Chatterton. This is part 2, back by popular demand. And it's really great to see so many of you logging on just now. So many already have logged on, and I'm sure many more will join in the next few minutes. For those who are joining us for the first time, I just wanted to briefly share a little bit about our host today, Jeff Chatterton. Jeff is the founder and president of Crisis Tether, a division of Checkmate Public Affairs. He specializes in calming fears and helping clients fall up, helping them recover well and succeed following challenging times. Last time, Jeff spoke about the importance of empathy. Empathy was the emotional need that our audience is seeking during these challenging times. A fantastic analogy that he used was the monster under the bed problem. He said, your clients are worried about the monster they can't fight nor see, and in this case, COVID-19. And you can't give them a factual response to emotional concerns. So many of you found Jeff's presentation extremely useful, and given the current global situation, we felt it was important to continue to share knowledge and advise with you. So we invited Jeff back again to give you his take almost 4 weeks on from the last time he was on in a webinar with us. So this time Jeff will be helping us answer questions like, how do I have that conversation with suppliers on deferring payments, for example? How to best handle clients wanting to cancel, wanting their money back? And most importantly, how do I convince them to stay? How to approach the daunting topic of layoffs. Who do I keep and who do I lay off? So each day we're continuing to learn how to adapt to this new normal as we call it. And we're striving to offer our community a space to collaborate, seek reassurance and support. So we want to provide our community with this, and we also want to play our part in the recovery and resurgence of our industry, a process that I do have every confidence, and I continue to say this at every single webinar, I have every confidence this will begin in the near future. So we hope this session will be a welcome insight into crisis management and provide a fresh perspective to help you navigate and recover from our current situation. So before I hand over to Jeff, I just wanted to let you know how it works and what to expect. Jeff will be presenting to us, and he will then open to questions. So please do not hold back. I'm sure many of you use Zoom and now becoming more and more acquainted to technologies such as Zoom. But if you haven't, it's quite simple. You can ask questions at any time by using the chat button, and I will keep a tab on the questions coming through. So feel free to ask as many questions as possible. They appear on your screen when you hover at the bottom of it. The chat button should be right there. If it's not, there are 3 dots and you should click on that, and there is a menu bar and the chat should be in one of the options. So if you click on that, you can then post your question. If you can choose how to show your question. If there is a choice to share questions or comment with just the panelist or host, or you can share your questions and comment to specific people and specific attendees. So you can just ask a question to me, for example, and I will make sure that I will pose that question on your behalf if there is time. I do encourage you to ask as many questions as possible. This is absolutely your chance to do so. This session will last anything between 40 minutes to 1:15, and we'll see how it goes. It's been recorded, so if you feel that there are colleagues that couldn't make this session or didn't know about it, you will have a recording to send on to them for them to listen to it. Obviously, they won't have the opportunity to ask questions because it will be recorded. Please be respectful. Finally, I wanted to just make this point. Be respectful, understanding of one another. We encourage you to have a positive and supporting spirit in these challenging times. Between us all, there is such wealth of knowledge, insight, and advice that can be shared to help guide us through these uncertain times. So let's use each other for the good of our industry. So Thank you, everyone. And Jeff, now it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. Yeah, here we are. What a wild and crazy time we are dealing with out there. And I have had an opportunity to meet with a number of you. I've had an opportunity to chat with a number of you. I'm not going to lie. I think this is one of the biggest crises that the travel industry has faced, and certainly in my lifetime, probably going back to World War II. The economic disruption is massive and chaotic, and I won't surprise or shock anyone if I say that at the end of the day, there are going to be some winners and there are going to be some losers, and it's my job to make sure that there are as few losers as possible. The best analogy I've seen for what we're dealing with right now really I'm an auto racing fan. I pay attention to a lot of different motorsports, and anyone who's ever navigated a curve on a road knows that there are two ways you can navigate the curve. And the first way is you're driving along and you're going along full speed. Everything is going just fantastic. And then you realize at the last minute, oh crap, the road is changing, and you try to curve into it and you can't correct in time. And when that happens, bad things happen. You have desperately tried to rank the steering wheel. You've overcorrected, and when that happens, layoffs happen, and we wonder what on earth we're going to do next. Now, there's another way to navigate curves on the road, and that's where you can see the curve coming. But more importantly, even if you can't see the curve coming, you react and anticipate where the curve is going and what you need to do next. And when that happens, magical things absolutely start to work in your benefit. That's where you can buy your competitors' assets. That's where you get going down the road faster than ever thought possible, instead of diving off into the trees or falling off the cliff. And ultimately, that's what we're all trying to do right now. I'm not going to lie. And I just got to note, yeah, David, yes, my camera is off. That's okay. That's on purpose. I'll turn it on later. So we're in the middle of tough times, but that's where leaders get made. That's where legacies happen. I mean, I'm going to stress what Michaela said and encourage everyone to watch this session right now with your fingers on your keyboard and the chat box open. As I've just proven, I've got the chat windows open myself. I see what you're typing, but I want to talk about leadership and leadership in tough times. And I'm going to throw some American examples at you. I'm Canadian myself, so they're as foreign to me as anyone else. But I think everyone knows who this guy is. Everyone knows, the story about him standing in front of the Berlin Wall and saying, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." A lot of people, view him rightly or wrongly as basically threatening the Soviet Union to its death. Before then, the Cuban Missile Crisis. John F. Kennedy stood up to Khrushchev and an existential crisis that was, by many accounts, the closest they've ever come to total thermonuclear war. Everyone knows who JFK is. You go further back in history, everyone knows who this guy is. Completely restitched a torn apart nation. You can go further back. Everyone knows who this guy is. Stood on the bow of, boats in the middle of the winter and crossed the Delaware. Led a nation through its birth. But most of you probably don't know who this guy is. Now, he led the United States through the greatest economic resurgence of its life. Mass economic growth, got reelected in a fairly significant landslide, was absolutely in charge of one of the greatest, or economic boom times. But because it was such a good time, no one knows who he is. And that's, by the way, that's Calvin Coolidge. For those of you who are nerdy enough to pay attention to who former U.S. presidents are. And that's the point I'm going to make for you right now. It's ugly out there, but this is your moment. This is the chance that you have to actually be a leader. This is what people are going to remember you for. No one cares about the CEO who led a hotel to, new growth of 15% when everyone else was doing 17%. But the CEO who manages to lead, 1% growth when everyone else is losing 10%, that's a superstar. That's mass appeal territory. And that's where we're heading. Like I said, there are going to be some winners, there are going to be some losers. What can we do in order to make sure that you guys are the winners and not the losers? So we're here to answer some tough questions, and I'm gonna repeat what Michaela said. I don't have a whole lot of planned presentation stuff. I'm going to spend about the next 10 or 15 minutes walking you through a structure I call the Checkmate structure on how to answer some really tough questions. Now, for those of you who were here in my last webinar, we talked a lot about empathy and how critically important empathy is. We talked about, Michaela referenced it, the monster under the bed. You have to acknowledge the monster under the bed. You have to acknowledge how people are feeling. But how do you do that? How do you actually get people to understand that you know how they feel, but that you've got this, that you're making some tough choices, that you're showing some actual real leadership here? We're going to answer those really tough questions. I'm going to walk you through the structure that I use with my clients, whether they're in the travel industry, the tourism attractions industry, the aviation and airlines industry, everything from answering, really awkward and difficult questions from reporters to city councilors and regulators to your own employees or your own employees who have been laid off or furloughed, right? How can we answer those tough questions? So first, a few caveats. It's just important for everyone to understand and realize that I am a crisis communicator. I'm not an accountant. I am not a lawyer. I am a crisis communicator. It is my job to communicate through these tough questions. So I have some ideas and I have some thoughts and I have some experience, unfortunately, in some of humanity's worst moments. And I've been there and I've seen it, but I want to stress that this is not a substitute for, real advice. Like I said, if you have specific legal challenges, a specific accounting issue, I would urge you to go talk to your accountant, to go talk to your lawyer. We're going to talk about how to make people happy, even if you're dealing with some really awkward, rough situations. It is a communications exercise. So a lot of questions like, hey, I'm considering layoffs. Who do I keep? Who do I lay off? It's sad because 6-8 weeks ago, that question wouldn't have even been on my radar. But that's the question everyone's asking these days. How do you convince your suppliers to back off? How do you convince clients that want to cancel that you can't necessarily afford to give them their money back? What on earth do you do? What if this goes on longer? What if I go bankrupt? What if my vendors go bankrupt? What if my supplier? I mean, you can get yourself into a real challenging death spiral. You can really get inside your own head. I think we've all been there. I think we've all laid awake at night and you're staring at the ceiling and it's 2 a.m. and you just hear the tick, tick, tick of the clock. And inside your head, that's a scary place to be. That's where all of these scenarios go and take dark, evil twists, and you start to get yourself completely worked up about bankruptcies, and what happens if you have to lay off your friends or lay off your family members. Really awkward, tough, ugly questions. How are you going to make your mortgage payment? How are you going to feed your family type level of base questions? And if nothing else, here's what my hope is for you today. I'm going to give you a structure and a framework, but it all boils down to what's going on inside your own head. Because the best thing I can offer to you is the one thing that everyone else is looking for from you, and that is certainty. People need certainty. They are desperately looking for certainty. Certainty is everything. When you know exactly what's going on, that's easier. But when you don't, when you're in the middle of the storm, you need to have that anchor. You need to have the one thing that will not move. That is what we are going to teach you how to communicate right now. No matter how high the waves get, no matter how bad the storm gets, no matter how ugly it looks out there, no matter how awkward the phone conversations get, you need to have certainty. You need to be able to communicate certainty. And that's where this all boils down. Now, certainty can feel fleeting. It can feel hard to find. It can feel like you're chasing sunshine in the middle of a thunderstorm. And it doesn't need to. We're gonna walk you through what we can do in order to make you feel better so that you can communicate with confidence, so that you can go out there and actually, calm your suppliers, calm your employees, calm your family members, if that's what it takes, so that they know that you've got as much control over this as you can. So I talked about the messaging framework, and that level of certainty is what I call a key message or a headline message. It's really what your entire message boils down to. And here's an interesting part. It needs to be 7 to 11 words. I'm gonna walk you through exactly the same framework I give my paying clients when they bring me in to deal with a crisis situation. And I've been there. I've been there for airplane accidents. I've been there for mass layoff announcements. I've been there for disease outbreaks and natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes. It doesn't matter the situation. We need 7 to 11 words. This is not the time to get into the history of why you should be trusted. This is not the time to talk about how long you've been in business. We need 7 to 11 words. And I get really, really strict about this with my clients. By the way, I have spent hours and hours, upwards of a day working in a client's office to come up with those magic 7 to 11 words. And when you have those 7 to 11 words, that's your rock. That's your lighthouse. They need to be true. They need to be true in your soul. They need to be something that you honestly believe to be unassailable. Because here's the thing about truth. The truth is not friendly, but the truth is your friend. The truth can't be shaken because it is the truth. People may not like it. People may be opposed to what it is that you are telling them, but it's still the truth. And that's what allows you to sleep at night, knowing that you're banking on truth. So when we have those magic 7 to 11 words, and by the way, we'll walk you through an example or two on this. So don't worry if it's getting a little airy fairy yet, but no, I'll walk you through. When you have that rock, that level of certainty, right? Then you've got a structure that you can start to operate from. Now we're going to back that up with a supporting point. And we're going to back it up, ideally, in a perfect world, with a supporting point that's based on facts. Now, if you remember, in the last time we spoke, we talked about how facts are important, but facts are not what are going to convince people whether or not they should trust you or not, right? That's all on empathy. It's based on emotion. But you still need to have it. You still need to point out why those 7 to 11 words are true. I also want to bring out a secondary supporting point based on your own experience, your own framework, the perspective on why those 7 to 11 words are true. You're going to wrap it all up with those exact same 7 to 11 words, but most importantly, this will be interesting. I'd love to see. There is no such thing as a show of hands. If I were here live and in person in front of you, I'd ask everyone who was around in the first session to raise your hand if you were there, and I'd get you to tell me what the most important thing I taught you in the last session was. Who wants to be brave and punch that into the chat box? Where do you think I'm about to tell you? And by the way, I mentioned, if you only remember one thing, this is the one thing I need you to remember, right? What do you think that is? And now I see the chat box is remaining suspiciously empty, so I will just move on. There we go. There we go. Yes, it's all about empathy. You lead with empathy. People need to know that you know how they feel. They need to know that. So let me walk you through what that would look like. Say, for example, you own a hotel and you have a number of employees, and for whatever reason, the decision is made that the best decision for you right now is to actually close down the hotel. It's a controversial move, to be sure. People are upset because they're going to be furloughed or laid off. People think that you should do everything you can to try to keep it open for the next few months. They're going to give you all sorts of excuses. They're going to give you all sorts of reasons for that. For whatever reason, we're not going to get into the rationale, but you are here to defend the point that the best thing to do is to close the hotel. So, Jeff, why are you closing the hotel? So we're going to open with empathy. You know what? Hey, David, I've asked myself that very same question. Why am I going to close the hotel? And I can say this. Here are my 7 to 11 words. Closing the hotel is the best way to save it. Right now, even if we had 5% occupancy, and we don't, but even if we had 5% occupancy, it would cost more in food and in salaries and in booking fees to stay open than we're taking in. I have seen firsthand what happens when people delay making a decision. It's not a happy decision, but we need to take clear action. We need to choose a direction that will save us money and will save us the hotel, which is why I can say closing the hotel right now is the best way to save the hotel. See the structure? Empathy, 7 to 11 words, supporting point based in fact, supporting point based on experience, and you wrap it all up with those same 7 to 11 words. Now, those 7 to 11 words, quite frankly, they save your butt. Hey, Jeff, I think you should leave the hotel open and give rooms to medical responders for a greatly discounted rate so that they can treat people closer to the hospital. Wow, you know what? That is a really noble idea. And in fact, I've looked at that. We asked ourselves, can we do that? Is this something we can do? And unfortunately, we had to make the decision that closing the hotel right now is the best way to save the hotel. If the hotel closes, we can't offer rooms to anyone. And unfortunately, that's the position we're in. We've seen the numbers, we've seen the books, the numbers are what they are. I don't like the numbers myself, but I do know that my job is to do everything I can to save this hotel and to save the jobs that come with it. That's why I can say closing the hotel right now is the best way to save it. There's your 7 to 11 words. Doesn't matter. Whether you're talking to a reporter, whether you are talking to upset city councilor, whether you're talking to someone on the economic development committee, whether you're talking to the people at Marriott or Hilton or whoever your particular franchise happens to be, there's your 7 to 11 words. Closing the hotel is the best way to save the hotel or save it or whatever. That's your rock. That's your solid key message. And you should be able to answer any type of question with those same 7 to 11 words. You can come and go with the supporting points. You can come and go with the different reasons. You can come and go with different empathy statements, but you can see that if you've got those 7 to 11 words stitched into your soul, how easy this becomes. Well, okay, that's not true. How much easier. This is still a tough process. This is still a hard thing to get through, but that's the framework that I walk my clients through. It's critically important to open with empathy, because all you're trying to do is like I said, fire retardant foam. You're trying to calm the anger, calm the angst, calm the anxiety. But then we open it up. Here's the 7 to 11 words, why we say those 7 to 11 words, and wrap it up. It's a funny structure if you're not used to it, but you can see firsthand why it works, because no matter how agitated you are, how upset you are, you can't argue with this. If you're the union who is upset about housekeeping jobs, you may disagree, but you can't argue with it. They'll try, but it's not your job to make friends. It's your job to show leadership. So that's the structure. But again, it's all about the rock. You need that rock. You need the 7 to 11 words that really make sense. Now, normally in a particular client situation, if I'm in your boardroom, I got to admit, most of the time, if I'm in your boardroom, something has gone wrong. You've had someone die because of something that you've done. You've had an accident. You've had a natural disaster. People want to know, is your property safe? People want to know, is it safe to drink the water? People want to know, all sorts of, various questions based on what is going on with whatever it is that's caused you to bring me into your office in the first place. Normally, I can point to, yeah, absolutely, our hotel is completely safe. Let me tell you why. It is safe to drink the water. Let me tell you why. I come to this facility every day. Let me show you why. Whatever that 7 to 11 word rock is. Unfortunately, we're in a different type of crisis. We're in a fiscal crisis right now, and there are a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know, for example, how long this is going to last. We don't know what impact it's going to have on booking rates. We don't know what impact long-term international travel is, or whether it will recover, or whether we're in a completely new and different world. I get it. I understand how scary it is right now. So what can you do? How can you find a rock? So the structure I give people is progress, not perfection. We're not going to have perfection. We can't do perfect right now. It's an imperfect world. So there's your 7 to 11 words right there. I'm going to do everything I can to save this property. Why are you doing this? I'm doing this because I'm doing everything I can to save this property. Why are you laying off staff? I'm laying off staff because I'm doing everything I can to save this property. Why did you change our booking site? I did that because I'm doing everything I can to save this property. Let me tell you why. See how that works? Everything has different circumstances, different situations. Maybe you're not dealing with a hotel. Maybe you're dealing with a tourism destination. Maybe you're dealing with a particular wholesale supplier. The other thing I'm going to offer to you when it comes to remembering your rock is beware of hedges and guarantees. So, for example, can you guarantee that no one's going to permanently lose our job here? Oops, sorry. Can you guarantee that that we're going to reopen on schedule? Can you guarantee? And can you? Well, no, you can't. It's not a guarantee-friendly world. So what I like to tell people is, I guarantee I'm doing everything I can to save jobs. I guarantee I'm doing everything I can to save this property. Oftentimes, if people just hear the word back, that's enough to calm them down and give them that level of structure and reassurance. So that's the big offering I wanted to throw at you. I'm going to walk you through a few examples, just real quick, but different questions that I've run into. For example, I'm considering layoffs. Who do I keep? Who do I let go? Okay, it's a valid question. Before I dive into that, I want everyone, if you're hearing this right now, do me a favor. More importantly, do yourself a favor. What's the big question that you're dealing with? What are you struggling with right now? What are you trying to decide? What are you trying to find certainty on? What are you worried about? What are you staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. on? Do me a favor, but again, do yourself a favor. Punch that into the chat window right now. If no one has any questions, this whole thing is over and done in 20 minutes. But if we have some questions, I will walk you through it right here and now. We're going to walk through exactly the different types of questions that you have, and how to answer them, and this is your opportunity. So do that in the meantime. I'm considering layoffs. Who do I keep and who do I let go? Okay, so things to think about. And again, I'm a crisis communicator. So my job is not necessarily to make sure that you honor and obey human resource laws. If there are different laws in your jurisdiction, obviously you need to obey those. And again, this is not a substitute for legal advice, but in my experience, having been through this road more than once, here's what I will tell you works best. So first, consider voluntary reductions first. I think if you were to go to your people right now and say, hey, look, it's no secret, it's ugly out there. We're going to ask everyone to take a good hard look, and are there people who would like to go on to a furlough or a layoff in order to look after loved ones, or to stay home with their children, or to do anything else? Some people will take you up on that, and whether that's enough to get you to the number that you need, maybe not. But even the very nature of offering the opportunity for people to do that will help your morale with the ones that are left. So first off, the people who want to go, and stress to them, there's no shame in that, and that it's not a permanent move. They are welcome back with open arms if things get back to normal. Secondly, this is where it starts to get a little bit internal and a little bit ugly, but start to prioritize your team. And by doing that, I want you to come up with 3 lists of names. If you have 50 employees, for example, I want you to come up with 3 lists. And the first list is what I call the A team, and it is the top 10%. And by the way, the top 10% is not the top 5 executives on your team. Because if you're operating a hotel, do you really want your vice president of revenue to be the guy who's in charge of housekeeping? And not in charge of, but to actually do the housekeeping, right? Because that's what we're looking at doing. How can you do this? So maybe it's, the best housekeeper, the best guest services person, the best salesperson, the best whatever, but you're going to come up with 10%, the A team, the 10% team, that if you had to run your facility with a bare skeleton crew, these are the last ones you want to go. Now, the second list is what I call the B team. And by the way, I wouldn't broadcast that there's an A team and a B team, but let's be honest. We all know that there are some really great performers and there are some really good performers. So this is basically the top 20%. So if you had a team of 50, this would be 10. And I want you to start to, again, this is where you can actually make sure that your top sales guy doesn't have to put on a housekeeping outfit and go in and clean sheets every now and then. But yeah, everyone's going to be all hands on deck and still doing, all of the jobs. And then the third list is about 50%. And why do I say only 50%? Not everyone, not, and that's because sometimes the trickiest job is to figure out which half of your team can go. It's awkward. It's ugly. It's a position that no one wants to be in, but get through that process and do it internally. Do it, if you know exactly who your A team is and that you can trust them, maybe you can ask their input, but you need to have a list and you need to think this through. Now, when you do that, remember, what you're looking for are flexibility, because you need a salesperson who can clean toilets, and you need flexibility based on salary. You can't have 5 people on your team who are all making $500,000 a year. That's not sustainable. So you're looking for dollar per performance factors, which is why it may not be your favorite top 5 employees. It may not be your most valuable top 5 employees in good times, but we're not in good times, right? We're looking for the really skeleton crew that you can go through here. So when you've got that, now everything gets a little bit easier. Now you can go and talk to your A team and say, look, I'm going to do everything I can to keep you guys on board. Here's what that means. Are you on board? And stress to them, look, it means working weird hours. It means cleaning toilets. It means doing all of those things. Make sure they're on board with this team, because you can't surprise them with that. And once then you can go to your B team and say, hey, guys, look, here's the rough situation. It's no secret. We're going to have to do some layoffs. We want you to know you're our first call back. Here's everything we're going to do in order to help you through this process. And then you tell the entire rest of the team, with caring, with consideration, with sympathy, and with empathy, that you have to let them go. And there are a number of programs that are in place. Every government has different wage subsidy issues. Again, I'm not going to tell you what makes sense from a business perspective, because every situation is unique. But once you've got that internal structure in your head, it makes everything so much easier. So I already see a few different ideas and new questions that are up there. I want to just mention, there's some really legitimate questions that are being asked right now, but there are no crystal balls, right? We don't know. We don't know how long this is going to go. We don't know how long it's going to be until there's a vaccine. We don't know how quickly life will recover. I read a fantastic article yesterday from the CEO of a hotel chain, who said everyone's talking about what it takes in order to get back to February sales levels. And I'm here to tell you that's not going to happen. And that's a rough message to hear for people. He's saying, yeah, no, look, we're at day 0. We need to completely regrow. There will be some bouncing back, but we will not bounce back to the way things were 60 days ago. It's not going to happen. And that's a rough message to hear, but now it gives people certainty. They know, okay, we're in growth mode. We're in survival and growth mode, not bounce back mode. Oh, that's fair, because certainty is everything. It's your rock. Remember that rock. Live that rock. Love that rock. You need that rock. Your people need you to live on that rock. Maybe the rock is we're doing everything we can to save this property. Maybe the rock is we're going to close this hotel because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what the rock is, you need to have a rock. And when you have that rock, it doesn't matter how long it lasts. It doesn't matter how long we go until we don't have a vaccine or we do have a vaccine. It doesn't matter that your tourism attraction is right next to a Major League Baseball stadium or a Premier League soccer stadium and that no one is attending it right now because you have that rock, right? When you have that rock, that everything becomes easier because we don't know. And that's okay. It's okay that we don't know. We don't know vaccines. We don't know timelines. We don't know all these things. And that's okay. And why is it okay? It's okay because you have that rock. That rock is everything. When you've got it, it's a mindset play. But that is what allows you to deal with all of this stuff. So I'm going to give you the standard caveat, which is this is a lot of stuff, and I get it. And your head is probably swirling, and you're like, whoa, I don't understand exactly what's going on here. If you have any specific thoughts, any specific questions, I'm going to urge you, again, go to bookwithjeff.com. That will walk you through the instructions that it takes in order to book a half-hour time with me. It's not a sales call. It's just an opportunity for me to talk to you one-on-one. You can tell me about your particular situation. We can go through, brainstorm, come up with a rock. If there's an opportunity to work together, absolutely. I'll happily have a conversation about what that looks like, but I get it. No one's selling anything. No one's buying anything right now anyway. You know, I just want to be able to help as many people as we can right now. You know, it's like karma. It'll come back. So I would urge you, please take advantage of that. In the meantime, I know there are a few questions, some questions that people sent in advance and everything else like that. I'm going to hand that back over to Michaela, if provided her computer hasn't crashed.
No, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, can you hear me?
I'm here. I'm going to turn my camera back on now that we don't need to necessarily worry about.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic.
The deck.
Yeah. We've got a few questions from people, so I'll just read out one by one. And please, guys, everyone, all the attendees, feel free to continue posting because we'll cover as many as we possibly can in this session. But it's really nice of you, Jeff, to have made available some of your time to actually talk to people, and if you have any specific things that you might want to discuss with Jeff, he's available. And it's a very cool system, actually. I was asking Jeff all about how he set that up, and it just goes through his Outlook and he manages his time. So that's a really cool way of doing it. Okay, so Tina, I thought she asked a really relevant question, is how do I remain relevant? You know, anything really simple as that is how do I remain relevant? So what are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
I think I honestly, it depends on the audience you're referring to. If you're running around trying to be relevant to new sales and new booking partners and new opportunities right now, I'm not going to lie. I don't think anyone's figured that particular chestnut out right now. at the same time, this is a incredibly great opportunity to be relevant to your own supply chain. Whether it's your employees, whether it's your booking partners, whether it's your suppliers, whether it's your vendors, they're all looking to you right now for some level of certainty. They want to know, hey, are you gonna still be in business? Can I trust you? Are you still going to be here, or are you going to go bankrupt? Are you around in order to continue to pay attention to you? And that's where your rock comes in. When you can communicate to your vendors, yeah, you know what, I get it. I think everyone has a lot of real tough questions that are, what's going on, but I'll tell you this, we're doing everything we can to save this particular business and to continue to do business with you.
I think also that leads very much into, as I read it, right? The relevant bit is also in relation to your customers. And there is a big worry, and I actually share that with Tina, is the fact of keeping forefront of mind, being out there in the industry, being seen, even though it's a time where everything is stalled, everything is paused. How can you stay in the industry? How can you, why would you even speak, or why would you even talk in this moment? And how do you stay in it despite this moment of complete silence? Does it make sense?
Yeah. Are you talking about communicating to consumers?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple examples I could throw at you, and a harsh reality, which is, honestly, I wouldn't. I think right now, the vast majority of your clientele are worried about where they're going to find rent. They're not worried about whether or not they're going to go to Bali next year for a 10-year anniversary, getaway. They're worried about how they can go to the grocery store without getting a disease. And you run a real risk of appearing tone deaf if you don't acknowledge that. So there's a couple examples, and I don't want to.
Before you go there, Jeff, I think there is an element of, because we're in the luxury industry, so there are actually clients of the people that are attending this webinar who are actually pushing for going on holiday. And I was reading an article in The Guardian over the weekend of a private jet that was trying to land in France, of very uber rich people who had enough of the lockdown and didn't give a monkey about the actual lockdown in their own country, hired a private jet and wanted to go in their rented private villa in the south of France to bake in the sun. And they were trying to bribe the police and everything like that. So I think, yes, there is an awful lot of people that, they are concerned about paying their rent, and we're all at different stages.
It's a valid point.
But the consumers that are actually booking via a lot of agents and booking the hotels of the audience in this webinar are people that have disposable income and perhaps can afford to be stalled for a while because they've got enough cash and they're actually wanting to go out there and break the rules.
So
money.
that is a fantastic point, and you're right. Thank you for I shouldn't be talking about making rent, but I could be talking about losing business, or losing, and now they're only going to be worth $3 billion instead of $7 billion, or God knows what. Everyone has their own unique set of challenges. By the way, I did see that story about the couple who tried to go to the south of France, and I'd like to point out what happened to them, which is that one of them was arrested and the other ones were sent back. No one's having that right now. Trust me, if I could escape this, I would, right? I have a good friend of mine who is Chinese, and he's an international business professor, and he picked up and moved his family to Bali, rather than deal with the Chinese problems in the early days of the coronavirus. Well, now the problem is China is doing fantastic. Indonesia is leading Asia in the number of deaths. He doesn't, there is no escaping anywhere. But I think the message that's going to be really relevant when people are allowed to travel is again, it's an empathy play, but it's, man, don't we all deserve a break right now? I think that's what's going to work. It's not let's go hit the sun, let's go play and frolic in the waves. People aren't looking for activities and leisure. They're looking to get away. It's going to be a complete empathy escape maneuver. And that, I think that's you're going to, if you go at your audience with traditional messaging, like, hey, this is a great time of year to visit the cherry blossoms in Tokyo or whatever else, it's going to be tone deaf, because no one really cares about experiences. They look for escapism. So.
And there's going to be a lot of that, I guess, in the months to come. And as you said, I can't remember where you said it during this webinar or when we were talking beforehand, but different nations are at different stages of opening their country up,
Yeah.
or relaxing or contracting or whatever. So I guess that around the world we will see, dependent on where you are based geographically, you will see different people from different countries acting in different ways. And I guess that's all up to us to be flexible enough in our offering to be able to adapt to this new world. Because
and if that is probably one of the most important skill sets and mental attitude adjustments that I think the entire industry is going to have to adapt for the rest of 2020 is nimbility. Yeah, you have to be nimble. You have to be quick. You have to be able to go pivot and go, okay, we're going to send our clients to Russia right now. Or, I mean, frankly, 3 weeks ago, Japan was a great place to go. And now it's not.
It's in for a second wave. Just
yep.
Recently, we've heard that. But I just think, I was speaking to a lot of companies in these last few weeks to just try and understand what is our industry really going through. And a lot of companies saying, we are an international setup, we're not domestic, but is also a simple acknowledgement that actually the domestic tourism is the one that will most likely resurge first. And trying to adapt to that, I think even just something like this could potentially help a lot of people focusing their mind and saying, okay, well, my immediate plan as soon as they open up, that's what I'm going to go for. Anyway, there is another question here from Subhash, is how do I give my clients the confidence about fulfilling the plans for the rest of the year with a reasonable amount of intent and commitment and efforts, basically, to fulfill it?
So, and I think Subhash, I think you nailed it, which is that you can't give them hard plans. You can't give them, hey, we're all going to get on a plane and go to this private villa in the south of France, or to go on safari in Africa on June 15th, right? But what you can give them is the confidence that you are doing everything possible in order to ensure that they have that escape experience. And maybe it won't be June 15th. Maybe it's going to be August 15th. Maybe it'll be December 15th. Maybe it won't be a safari in Africa. Maybe it'll be to go visit kangaroos in Australia instead. But no matter what happens, if your rock is, you're going to do everything I can to serve my clients, then that is what you need to be able to communicate. It's a mental mindset play. The most important person you need to convince right now is up in here, not out there.
Sonia is asking, how can we give clarity to our clients when our suppliers aren't able to do so yet? We all need to work closely together and share relevant information about health and safety, as people are scared to travel. But actually, it's a good point, is how do we give that clarity if the suppliers can't give us that clarity in turn? Do we work with the suppliers to seek that clarity, or what advice?
You're looking for facts in an environment and in a world where facts don't exist. There is no such thing as clarity right now. I'm going to be really blunt, and please don't get offended. There is no clarity. Clarity is the last thing we have right now. What we do have is reassurance. We do have confidence. We do have clarity of intent. And again, this is the progress, not perfection. We're doing everything humanly possible in order to fill in the blank, right? But yeah, we're not going to know what countries are open. We're not going to know whether or not this particular luxury resort is going to be open for paying customers. It is a wild and crazy world. The saving grace in all of that is it doesn't matter what you feel bad about in terms of lack of clarity, because I can promise you your clients are getting that same lack of clarity on where they're getting their groceries, or whether their office is open, or whether they need to lay off their own staff, or everything else. It is a very fluid situation.
But what we can do, but what I think we can do, it's in our power, is to show clients commitment and intent of helping them. So it all boils back to communication with them, being honesty, which is what you talked about in your previous session, empathy, so understanding their situation and empathizing with them and saying, I'm with you with it, and I am going to try and help you out, which is really what everyone has been doing all the way up until now. The only difference is that now you do it because you're in it as well. And by being honest, giving them your commitment and showing them empathy, I guess that will in turn help your reputation, in managing your reputation in terms of in relation to your clients. So Subhash followed up his question and he said the big challenge now is dealing with clients to assure them business continuity and our reputation management. So how best we address this? And it goes back to what Jeff was saying and what I'm saying on the basis of what I've been learning through Jeff's webinars is empathy, honesty, and just being upfront, being in it with them and showing them that you're going to do whatever it takes to help them. That's how you're going to keep your reputation safe. And it's just, you're going to do only your best. And that's all you can do right now.
It really is an open kimono type environment. Subhash, if you've got people who are concerned about your business continuity, the message and the conversation like that goes, hey, Subhash, I understand that you've got some concerns about whether or not we're going to be in business. Obviously, you know what? Those are questions that we ask ourselves every day. We come to this office every day. We work with clients just like you every day ourselves. Let me walk you through why we're doing everything we can to save, this particular business, or to save this, and do it. Hey, look, here are our books. If that's something that you're comfortable doing, here is the plan. If you don't have a plan like that, for heaven's sake, get on the phone and book a time with me, and I'll walk you through what we can or can't do in order to share or to give that structure. But honestly, in such a crazy, freak out, wild world, the fact that you would take the time to sit and calmly try to reassure someone doesn't really matter what you're saying at that point. The biggest gift you're offering them is time and certainty. and you could be spelling out the alphabet for them, but the very act of taking that time shows that you're being empathetic, that you're being honest, that you're being fair, that you're being completely forthright. And that's going to do far more for your reputation than any sort of, whether or not you've got reserve funds or a line of credit or anything else along those lines.
I've got a question which is recurring, and I'm sure a lot of people on the webinar will say, oh yeah, I get that. I have clients who want to cancel, but I can't give them their money back. So what do I do?
So it sucks, and I think every travel organization on earth is there, and I've got some people who are going to be horrified at what I'm about to tell you, but be honest. Oftentimes you can't give money back because you've given a good piece of that money away to your own suppliers and to your own vendors and everything else like that. And what I have done with a number of different companies is we explain, all right, here, you gave us $30,000 for a fantastic trip to, Botswana at the end of this year. Let me show you what we've done with that money. This much money has gone to this vendor, this much money has gone to this vendor, this much money. That means that we have left remaining this much. Now, if you insist on canceling, I can give you that. All right, that would leave us, out everything. But obviously I can't go and get the money back from these people. I'm happy to talk to them, but let's work together. What can we do in order to create a fantastic experience? What is it that we can do? And you know what? Some of them are going to be furious and some of them are going to yell. We had a whole session on the last time about what to do with splenetics versus the skeptics and everything else like that. But they may not like the truth, but the truth is still the truth. And as long as you're dealing that in a spirit of compassion and empathy and honesty and transparency, that's really all you can do.
Yeah, no, that's that should answer my question actually. I think we're going to wrap it up. And the good thing is that there are many more questions, but they won't go unanswered, aren't they, Jeff? Because there is an opportunity for each and everyone to actually book some time with you and go
Absolutely.
and dive really deeper.
I will.
So I apologize for NEO and other people here on the chat. I can see that Greg has very, very good questions, but bookwithjeff.com, and Jeff will make available some time in this difficult times to help you all out. So thank you very much, Jeff, for your invaluable insight. I love the 7 to 11 words, and I was texting my team to see what 7 or 11 words we come up with, and it's a useful exercise, and I think we'll definitely embark on it and see what we come up with. So I find it extremely useful and insightful personally. So I'm sure many people have found the same. So thank you for everyone also for being here, listening and contributing. As promised, we will be sharing this recording with you all as soon as we can. The travel industry is a very resilient industry, and I'm sure we will come back stronger, different, but stronger. Next Tuesday, we will be hosting an incentive webinar exploring purpose for greater connections with Scotty Johnson. I know Scotty was actually on this webinar as well. So I'll gather his feedback later on. Scotty's aim is to help you both personally during this current situation, and also to think about how you can best respond as a business to your clients' needs in this new normal afterwards. In the meantime, I hope many of you will have been enjoying our new Connections online community. We have many more features coming. We're really excited to share these with you as and when the days and the weeks will progress. So it has to be said that more than ever before, our industry must stay connected. And as we've been launching this brand new digital product for our members of our community at the beginning of this month, this platform has allowed a lot of people to see who the connections leaders are, who they are, where they are, and what they're doing. So it allows everyone to connect and chat with each other. And we've just launched the chat the other day, and I'm starting to add people to various different chats. And so it'll be really interesting to do a chat on the people that have attended this webinar. And Jeff, I'll add you on and add more people on it, and let's get the chat going with alerts to your messenger and email when someone talks or says anything in any of these chats. So for those of you who are new to Connections, get in touch if you're interested in joining us, and we'll take you through all of what this online community can do. So all that's left is to please let us know if we can be of any help. We can lend a hand, big or small. And if you are in need of just a comforting conversations, we are here for you. So wishing you all a happy and healthy week ahead. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.